and I was speaking Korean with my other Korean friends, some of the teachers would interrupt us and say, that's rude, speak in English, because everyone else can't understand you, which I, at the time, didn't, feel anything about it. I actually agreed to that. I thought it was rude, because if I heard someone else speak in a different language and I couldn't understand it, and I knew that they could speak English, I would feel, kind of left out.
It's funny that you say so, because whenever I hear two people of the same language speaking English, I actually challenge them. I said, why do you speak English? So it happened to me recently at the Qantas lounge here at the Adelaide airport. I heard two Vietnamese people speaking in English while making coffee for me. And I knew they were Vietnamese because they had a Vietnamese accent, both of them. And I said, excuse me, are you not Vietnamese? Both of them say, yeah, we are, but we are not. So I said, why don't you speak Vietnamese? It's kind of weird that you speak English with, like with a Vietnamese accent among yourselves, not with me. And they said, oh, because we want to be polite to you, and we don't want to sound like. I said, oh, what do you mean? I mean, I want you to speak Vietnamese. I want to listen to the Vietnamese sound. I'm not afraid that you're colluding something against me. On the contrary, I want you to speak Vietnamese. I said, no, we are not allowed. We cannot. So they didn't speak it because according to the rules, they're not allowed. It was very funny. Like I told them, please. And I was the only person around because of COVID, fewer people take flights. So I was very disappointed. And then my Aboriginal friend told me another story, which is mind-boggling. He went to a bar. He's an Aboriginal guy, a Bangla guy, and he heard two Anglo-Australians talking to themselves. And then there were two Chinese people. And the Chinese people were speaking in Chinese. And I guess it was Mandarin. It might have been Cantonese, one of the 10 Chinese languages. And he heard the Aussies, the Anglos, saying, look at these people. They come to our country and they do not even learn our language. And my friend, who is Aboriginal, Bangla, he said to himself, oh, what kind of chutzpah these Anglos have? I mean, they came to my country, and they didn't learn Bangla. On the contrary, they killed Bangla. So, I mean, they killed Aboriginal languages who had been here for 50,000 years. So, I mean, how can they say about the Chinese people coming to Australia that they do not speak their language, which is Australian? I mean, it's nerve. It's like, what kind of chutzpah? What kind of nerve? What kind of lack of respect? By these Anglos, etc. So, I hear more and more people who tell me, yeah, at my school we were discouraged from speaking our foreign language because I think it's atrocious. I think that on the contrary, you should be urged to keep your heritage language and also to show the other people within your school, whether it's in America, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in England, that there are other languages to learn. Otherwise, if you follow these rules, here everybody speaks American, then you suffer from the monolingual mindset that so many Americans suffer from despite Spanish, so many Australians suffer from, so many New Zealanders suffer from despite Te Reo Maori. Most English-speaking country people do not speak another language. Furthermore, when they listen to a foreign accent, many monolingual mindset people treat the foreign accent as a disability. But actually, the foreign accent can only say one thing, that this person at least speaks one other language, if not many more, which is a huge advantage to society when it comes to intelligence. A native bilingual, this is about native bilingualism, is more intelligent than himself as a monolingual. it is of huge benefit to society when it comes to dementia and native bilingual. Somebody who speaks two languages natively will get the dementia 4.5 years later compared with himself as monolingual. So if it's written in your genes that you get dementia at the age of 80, now as a native bilingual, you will get it at the age of 84.5, which is wonderful for society because you will need less help, less, hospitalization or less helping hand, when it comes to living with a doctor, with nurses, etc. And also non-native bilingualism, we have proofs today, like you have researchers by Boaz Keisar and many others that show that non-native bilingualism improves the way that you take decisions, that you make decisions, and you get rid of many biases that exist in monolingualism. So in other words, when somebody has a foreign accent, it means that it's not a disability, but it's actually a better ability. But when you grow up in an environment in which you say, shh, 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 don't speak Korean, this is only English, this is ridiculous. I would argue the opposite. You should be encouraged to speak in Korean. And of course, you should be encouraged to teach your friends Korean words, etc., etc. Of course, I'm not saying that, like if it's a situation in which somebody can think you're colluding against them, or, this is a football game and only the Koreans are together again. No, I'm not talking about that. But we need to change this mindset, which is monolingual, in which, everybody is judged according to the English. You have stories of people who used a word in another language that sounded racist or aggressive in English, and therefore they were accused of racism. It's ridiculous because they spoke another language. Why should you accuse them of racism? And they say, oh, they're in America, they should be aware that this word should mean something. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's such a monolingual mindset.
So how can you go against I want to say like the etiquette though? It's almost like a proper way to interact socially in the Western states, such as in America or in Australia. If you were to just blatantly speak your own language at universities or wherever you are in whatever setting, social setting, you're going to be, ridiculed, or you might be seen as kind of, less. So
I will do it. I will do it. Coming to the Thomas Kuhn and the framework, I will do it within the unfortunate framework that we are currently in when it comes to America, which is what I call political correctness gone mad. I would do it within the political correctness gone mad framework. So I would introduce language festivals in every school in America. And I would explain why it is politically incorrect not to allow a person to speak in his or her own language, because this is the current unfortunate framework within America. Everything is judged within this political correctness BS. So I would actually say, look, I mean, by not allowing this person to express himself in his own language or herself in her own language, you actually discriminate against them. And this goes against this, against that, and that. So I would actually use this horrible reality that we are currently in. And eventually, it will make people understand the advantages of multilingualism. The fact that to be multilingual is actually very good for you. It's a little bit like, it reminds me, your question of what happened at the University of Melbourne. There was a very kind of fanatic Islamic society that wanted to have a conference within the Melbourne University, and many people were against it. And then there were many people who said, oh, you're against it because you're racist. Just because they're Muslims, it doesn't mean that. But then what happened was that so they allowed them to have their conference within Melbourne University. But what happened thereafter, it was like 7 years ago, they it was only for men, and they expressed ideas that were very male chauvinistic. For example, women should not be allowed to study, women should not. And then this was brought up after the conference to all the ones who said, look, I mean, we should allow them, you're not. And so, wait a second, you supported this conference because you said it's, you know, we should not be anti-Islamic, but actually there were anti-feminists or anti-women, etc., etc. And then the people, there were many kind of feminists who were among the group that wanted the Islamic, they say, oh, wait a second, we are confused. So it's kind of, it makes you confused in the sense that say, okay, you support this, but actually they're male chauvinistic. So again here, you say, I'm not allowed to speak Korean because this is against the etiquette of having transparency, everybody will understand exactly what everybody said. But wait a second, actually, you are stepping on my right for foreign language, which is a wonderful thing. So you need to show the complexity of reality. It's very complex, you know, reality is complex. I mean, you think that you do good, but actually the result is that many Korean kids in America will be ashamed of speaking Korean, or will just resort to English, and they will forget about Korean, which is horrible, because then they will lose their 4.5 years. They will be less intelligent than themselves. They will be less concentrating when it comes to construction noises. We have Nina Kraus conducted research that showed that native bilinguals can concentrate better when they speak to you. So for example, now there is construction happening near my office. It doesn't bother me if I'm native bilingual. Whereas if I'm monolingual, I say, oh shit, what did you ask me? I cannot. So this is all part of the benefits of multilingualism. By discouraging people from speaking Korean in America for whatever spurious reasons they can have, like, you are actually doing something against the child, not for the child. So you always need to think about the bigger picture, not the very small picture. And sometimes it is a complex reality.